You are currently the only person in this conference.
इसको रोको। यस। Okay, so good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Am I audible? Okay. Thank you so much to everybody who is wishing me a happy Teachers' Day, and God bless everybody, and may you all succeed in your life. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's begin with the class. Yesterday, we studied the characteristics of entrepreneur leadership, and we discussed various characteristics that should be a part or of the qualities in an entrepreneur. These qualities we explained in the class, and some of the students have sent me the write-up as well, and I really liked it. Some of I think 3 or 4 students have sent it to me, and it was very good, and I appreciate the fact that they have tried to write it on their own, in their own words. And I think it was Sonal Ablani, Sanjana Agrawal, and Dinky Valecha. So I'll note these names down. Thank you, and probably it will help you in the future. So we'll start with emergence of entrepreneurial class today. So emergence, when we talk about emergence, here we will discuss the history of entrepreneurship, how it developed, how it came into existence, how it gained the importance that it has in today's world. Okay. So beginning with the emergence, the word entrepreneur is derived from a French word entrepreneur. Okay, this is a French word. That's why the pronunciation is a little different. It is not entrepreneur. Everybody who calls this entrepreneur or entrepreneurship is wrong. It is entrepreneur. Okay, if it was entrepreneur, it would, the spelling would have been different. Enter. Okay, so this word is entrepreneur, which means to undertake. In the beginning of 16th century, a Frenchman who organized and led a military expedition was called entrepreneur. Okay, so this word came into existence in the 16th century. It was first used in the 16th century um, by a French person. He worked as he led a military expedition. Expedition means it's a military, you can say, mission. Okay, so as he was the leader and he tried to do something new with that mission, that's why this word entrepreneur was taken into account. Okay. After that, in the 17th century, this word was used for the architects and contractors associated with public, which was with public work. This term was used in business, first of all, in the French economists in the 18th century. Okay, so relating to business, this term was used initially in the 18th century, that too by a French economist. The names I don't suggest, or I don't want you all to remember so many names, because it's obviously not possible to remember such names. But if you can, it will be good, but it's not compulsory. Okay. So in the 18th century, the French economists used this term. He is the one who brings together means. So here we are trying. The Frenchman tried to explain what entrepreneur means. So he is the one who brings together various means, assembles them, and so that the product suitable for the market could be presented. Okay. This can be the very, very initial definition or meaning of an entrepreneur. Okay, so you can note this down. I've written it in the comment box. So then later on, the French economists um carried forward thoughts saying that an entrepreneur organizes a business firm and basically does the production and distribution work. So every aspect or every activity involved in a business has to be performed by the entrepreneur. Okay. So as we discussed yesterday, every entrepreneur should be a good leader, and a leader has to be involved in all the activities that are taking place in the organization. Okay. Then came Peter F. Drucker. Now Peter F. Drucker um holds a very distinct position in describing entrepreneurship. He has worked in this field a lot and is considered an expert in this field. Okay. So Peter F. Drucker said in his Innovation and Entrepreneurship that entrepreneurship occurs when redirection of resources to progressive opportunities takes place. Okay, so redirection of resources we discussed yesterday when we were trying to study the reallocation of resources, the characteristics, sorry, the definition of entrepreneurship. So that time we discussed the redirection of resources. So the resources should be redirected from opportunities that do not yield too much benefit to activities or opportunities that can be more beneficial for the organization or the entrepreneur. Okay. He also said an entrepreneur is the one who always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. Okay, so I'll write this in the comment box so that you can write it down and save it. This was given by Peter F. Drucker. Okay. Then, so this was the world economy. Here we were talking about how entrepreneurship came into existence uh, globally. Okay, when we talk about entrepreneurship emergence in India, which is more relevant to our subject or syllabus, it is very important to know how entrepreneurship came into existence in our country. So, in the pre-colonial times, the Indian trade and business was at its peak. So pre-colonial means when colonization was not done. So, the history of entrepreneurship is important worldwide. Even in India, in the pre-colonial times, the Indian trade and business was at its peak. Indians were experts in smelting of metal. Means smelting means using raw metal to make convert it into usable metal. Okay, smelting such as brass and tin. So brass and tin was available in abundance in our country, and the people of India were involved in the production of objects made up of these metals. Okay. The Kanishk Empire in the first century started nurturing Indian entrepreneurs and traders. So these people who were making objects out of metals, these brass and tin metals, they were encouraged and appreciated by the Kanishk Empire, and they were termed as entrepreneurs or traders. So they made these products and then they sold them. So that's why traders term is also added. Okay. So these objects were sold to huge empires, one of them being the Roman Empire. So uh, then when these objects were sold to such huge countries or empires, a lot of earning was made, a lot of gold was earned. Obviously in that time, the main currency that was used was gold coins. So gold came in to India and it started pouring in from all sides. Then came the Portuguese and the English. The Britishers, they came when they saw that India was doing so well. They tried to come and conquer the country. They captured the Indian sea waters and slowly entered the Indian business. They forced the entrepreneurs to become traders. So what did they do? They entered the country and they took over these activities of making or manufacturing these objects out of metal, and they turned the workers, the artisans, the people who were actually entrepreneurs into traders and forced them to to sell those goods to themselves. Okay, they forced the entrepreneurs to become traders and they themselves took over the role of entrepreneurs, the Britishers. Okay. Um, this was the main reason for the downfall of Indian business in the colonial times. Okay, so this was the main reason for the downfall of Indian business. Okay, this is why Indian businesses or Indian markets could not survive or could not flourish after that. Okay. Across these three perspectives of entrepreneurship, so I'll show you a small diagram. I'm not sure where you can see it. I had a diagram that I would put in, but okay, so Khyati wants me to explain once again. Okay, I'll repeat it. See, here, when we are talking about entrepreneurial class or entrepreneur development in India, we want to say that entrepreneurs in India or Indians became entrepreneurs a very long time ago. Okay, in the like here we talked about the first century. The Kanishk Empire was ages ago. Okay, so even before the Britishers had come to India, Indians were already entrepreneurs. They were already involved in entrepreneurial activities. Okay, so they tried to make the main occupation or the main business idea was to make objects out of brass and tin. Okay, now these objects were then sold to other countries, and that made India very rich. Okay, that helped us earn a lot of money from the entire world. When we were earning so much, we grabbed a lot of attention from many of the other countries, including mainly the Portuguese and the English. The Portuguese means from people from Portugal, and from the English people. English people means from England, the Britishers. Okay, so they came to India when they got to know that Indians were earning a lot of gold. They came to India and they forced the entrepreneurs who were involved in the production of objects out of brass and tin. They forced these entrepreneurs to become traders. Okay, and the Britishers, they themselves became entrepreneurs. Okay, so what did they do? They forced our Indian people to give up the entrepreneurial activities, and they took our ideas. Okay, so they themselves took the role of entrepreneurs. So that was the time when Indians gave up businesses, and they started serving the Britishers. After the British rule ended, and when the downfall of Britishers started, at that time, Indian products, the Swadeshi movement actually gave birth to the entrepreneurship in India again. Okay, so here we just wanted to discuss how um, entrepreneurship emerged in India and how it stopped. Okay. Once again, I just wanted to show you guys a diagram so that we can understand the effect or the conclusion of this a little better. Okay, so here you can see this is the diagram. I hope everybody can see the diagram. Can everyone see the diagram? This diagram? No. Good. So here, what we are trying to do is, what we're trying to explain is that these three activities or these three entities try come together and make entrepreneurship possible. So what are these three activities that we are trying to discuss? Okay, so entrepreneurship is a result of three dimensions. So these are the three dimensions that I have mentioned in the um, diagram. Okay, working together, conductive framework conditions. Okay, the first one is conductive framework conditions. Okay, that is what I have written here, conductive framework conditions. The second dimension is well designed government programs. Now conductive framework conditions means that the infrastructure, basically we're talking about the business infrastructure, how these activities or the availability of transportation, the availability of telecommunications, the availability of supply chain, these things are part of conductive framework conditions. If these are not supportive for the business, it becomes very difficult for an entrepreneur to survive. Second is a well designed government program. Government usually in the further chapters we study about how government organizes EDPs, entrepreneurship development programs. Now these programs help a lot of entrepreneurs come together and share their business ideas, their activities, the types of hacks or types of shortcuts they are involved in, they take up. Okay, so government helps these entrepreneurs to uh, move forward a bit, make their businesses prosper. Now government also has a benefit out of these entrepreneurs. how the well-designed government programs help the entrepreneurs to thrive or to become bigger. When businesses in India prosper, when business becomes bigger or more and more businesses are established in the country, it makes the country's exports increase. Now, once the exports increase, it brings in the most important resource that we require, which is foreign exchange. Now, the higher the foreign exchange reserves of a country, the stronger the country gets. Okay, so government also helps. The government should be supportive of the entrepreneur. And the last dimension is supportive cultural attitude. Supportive cultural attitude means that the society, the people around, the citizens of the country should have a positive attitude towards the entrepreneurs. Okay? Is that clear? I hope you understand the diagram that I explained. Next, across these three perspectives that we just saw, entrepreneurship, two major conclusions were apparent. So, from all the things that we studied up till now, we can draw two conclusions. What are the conclusions? Firstly, the economic, psychological, and sociological academic fields accept that entrepreneurship is a process. Okay, so entrepreneurship is a process which involves a lot of fields. What are the fields that are involved? Firstly, economics, psychological, and sociological. Okay, so economics means any activity relating to commerce or any activity relating to finance. That is economics. Okay, second, psychological. Entrepreneurship involves studying the psychology of the customers, of the consumers, of the society we are living in, of all the entities that are involved in the business, be it creditors, be it debtors, be it suppliers, be it customers, be it shareholders. All these people have an impact on the entrepreneurship. So, psychological activity or psychological field is also involved. And lastly, sociological. Sociological involves the society as a whole. What is the reaction of a society towards different activities? Like, every society is not always welcoming to new changes, right? These new changes have to be brought about so that life in the country can become easier. Okay, so society's mindset has to be studied, and all these three activities come together and make entrepreneurship a process. Okay, second conclusion is, despite the separate fields of analysis, these three separate fields we analyzed to study entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship is clearly more than just an economic function. Okay, so after studying or after judging all the characteristics, all the activities, all the various points that we studied in the um, former slides, we can clearly understand that it is not just related to economics. Not economic function means of earning money. So it is not only the activity of earning money. Here we are more involved about building up an organization, building up this new society, building a mindset, growing in a country, and growing the country along with the business. Okay. Now, just on a lighter note, let's discuss a little about what entrepreneurship is doing for the country. Okay. In the past few years, you may have seen in the newspaper, if you read the newspaper, a lot of entrepreneurial activities, a lot of schemes promoting entrepreneurs is being started by the government. Okay, like Swarozgar Yojana, then Udyamita is what entrepreneurship is called in Hindi. So Udyamita is being promoted, or entrepreneurship is being promoted in the country. Now, what is the benefit of promoting this? Obviously, if the government is trying to promote entrepreneurship, they might be benefiting from it, obviously. So, the benefit is that currently there are a lot of sectors in our country which have to import a lot of goods. Okay, so importing all these goods, so importing all these goods is, you can say, taking away a lot of our foreign exchange reserves. Exports, on the other hand, help bring in the foreign exchange. How? Export means selling our country's goods to other countries. When they purchase our goods, they will obviously pay us back, and they will pay us back in their currency and demand for our currency. If the demand for Indian currency increases, the purchasing power of this currency will also increase. Like, for example, today the exchange rate for $1 is 72 or 74 rupees. Okay. Now this has increased since many years. Okay, it was 60 a few years back, and now it's 74 rupees. So that means the purchasing power of a rupee is decreasing, and we need to push it up again. And this can only be pushed if business in India prospers, if foreign exchange reserves or demand for our currency increases. Okay. Then moving on, I hope the emergence was clear to everyone. It is actually a theoretical topic, and it is more of a discussion based topic. Okay, so I will link a few write ups or notes in the um Moodle section. You can check out the notes where I have linked the previous notes, and you can find it there. So you'll have to write it in your own words, okay? Next, moving on to functions of an entrepreneur. Now, functions of an entrepreneur can broadly be divided into three major categories. What are the three categories? First is establishment related functions, management and operational related functions, and lastly, modern functions. Okay, so we'll discuss all these three functions in detail. We'll start with establishment related functions. Am I audible to everybody? I hope I'm not lost. All this few students seem to appear on offline. So, are we still connected? Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So, moving on, establishment related functions. And do remember that I mark the attendance randomly at any time in the session, or in all the 40 minutes that the class continues. So you have to be online for the entire 40 minutes. Otherwise, your attendance will not be marked. Okay. All right. So starting with first, to imagine a business idea. So the most important part of any entrepreneurship or any enterprise is the idea or the business idea that holds, or that is the foundation of the organization. Okay, every business obviously initiates from this idea. Now the idea can come from various sources. Okay, a lot of sources are involved. We will discuss the sources in detail in the next unit. Here we'll just have a small I'll just explain a small summary of it. So what can be the sources? For example, if you have to start a business, what are uh, what will be your first thought? Obviously you will need an idea or a product or a service idea. How can you, as a normal person, get the idea? Think about the sources from where or what you can do to find out these ideas. How can you get a business idea? Please tell me in the comment section. Okay, imagination, very good. Proper analysis of the market, yes, right. We can get the idea from some businessman, yes. Talking to experts, very good. According to the demand, very, very good. Demand, you can study the market and analyze the demand. What products are in demand, and you can take that idea. Very good. Creativity, yes, very nice. So using creativity, we can innovate new products. Then what we can do as per the need of customers. Yes, you can take feedback of the customers of what are the products that they require. Very good. Finding the need in the society. Very good. Customer demand, yes, yes, customer demand. Society needs customer demand according to market conditions, market economic conditions. Very good. So basically you have an idea that how to get a business idea. Okay, these are the basic sources of where you can get a business idea. So you can talk to experts who have successfully done or started a business. You can talk to your faculty members. You can read business magazines. You can study the entrepreneurs that have recently started their organization. Then you can obviously study the market, what is in demand, what product has recently launched and is gaining importance. For example, uh, as soon as some product does well in the market, you will see new number of new brands or new companies starting to produce that product. Okay, when Android phones were not in the picture, and uh, so one of the companies started making an on Android phone. Before that, obviously Nokia was the major shareholder in the market shareholder. What happened is when Android became successful or cameras became successful in the phone, a lot of companies have now switched their production to producing camera Android phones. Okay, and now that this situation in the market has now forced Nokia to change its product and make it Android. Okay, so this is how all the businesses can get a business idea. Okay, next, investigation of the proposition. Now, we gather ideas from a lot of sources, and now we have an idea or a bunch of ideas. We shortlist some of the ideas, and then we have some of the proposed ideas. Okay. Now we will have to further shortlist or cut down the ideas that are not feasible for us. Okay. So we investigate what idea is beneficial, what is easier to do, what is actually possible to do, and we do that. Okay, we select that idea. Then we come to project planning. So these are all functions of an entrepreneur. Project planning. So again, after investigation of the idea, then we start planning the project. Now after investigation, we have selected that what is the idea that I am finally going to take up. And then we start planning that project. What are the raw materials that will be involved in the production? What are the basic necessities? What is the workforce required? What is the budget that is required? How many years will it take me to reach my break even point? Does anybody know what break even point is? You may have studied in the other subjects and in the past classes what break even point is. Yes, good. What is it? Can somebody tell me? Yes, Sonal. No profit, no loss situation. Very good. So it is a situation when the producer reaches a point where the cost is covered and there has not been any kind of profit. Okay. Yes, very good. So the so we have to judge how long will it take for me to reach my break even point. Okay, so we start planning the project. Now all the plans that have to be included in this project we will study in detail in the second unit when we study about the project proposal. Okay, then preparation of project feasibility report. Now feasibility is a very important word in planning of the project. Okay. Now feasibility means if we start judging the feasibility of an idea, we have to see whether that idea is actually practically possible or not. Okay, if I start to study the feasibility of, for example, I'm trying to build a time machine. Okay, now production of a time machine, I'll first have to do a feasibility study. A feasibility Under the feasibility study, I will have to judge whether it is possible with the existing raw materials, with the existing technology, with the existing environment. Is it possible practically to produce a time machine? Obviously, it is not. Otherwise, it would have already been produced. So the feasibility report holds the actual practicalities of the project, whether it is possible to produce, whether it is financially beneficial to produce. So feasibility involves a lot of things involving financial feasibility, practical feasibility, production feasibility. All these things would be studied under the feasibility report. Okay, so here we judge whether the project is actually producible, whether it is actually doable or not. Okay. Next, obtaining the approval of the project. So obtaining approval, a lot of organizations give you approval for the project. Like whatever business you are involved in, there are departments that government has set up from where you have to take up with various licenses, various permissions to produce that project. Okay, we'll study this tomorrow again in a little detail. Okay, because the time is running out. So establishing the enterprise. So after we have obtained the proposal, we establish the enterprise. We set up the business. Okay. Okay. So that's all for today. I hope everybody has followed what I have tried to explain it to you. If there are any doubts, you can mail me. You guys have my mail ID. I'll write it down again. Okay. So So this is my mail ID. If there are any doubts, anything that you have not understood, anything that you want to discuss in the class, you can mail me here. Okay? And thank you so much for all the students who have wished me a teacher's day. And God bless you all. Take care and be safe. Okay? You all are educated students, and the world expects you to be very sophisticated and very organized. Okay? Do not ignore your studies. Do not waste this time. Try to do something good out of this time. Try to learn something new. You have a lot of time on your hands, and do learn something new so that it can help in the betterment of yourself. Okay? Thank you so much, girls. We will continue tomorrow.